The federal government has found a new way to target Canada's best economic driver. You guessed it, Ottawa now wants to censor oil and gas companies. The new measure is designed to ensure that oil and gas companies can't talk about their environmental achievements unless it's proven against some undefined standard. Simply put, oil and gas won't be able to defend themselves against relentless attacks from the Liberals and the NDP. It's the latest low blow from a government that isn't interested in defending its record or debating its opponents, but rather relies on the authoritarian adage of silencing its detractors. I'm Rachel Emmanuel, and this is the Alberta Roundup.
Rachel Emmanuel brings the news each day on Alberta Roundup. She has her say.
Okay, everyone, taking a look at our first story here. The Alberta government is considering employing its Sovereignty Act to stop what it's calling a gag order on oil companies talking about their environmental achievements. The federal government's proposed Bill C-59, which is currently awaiting Senate approval, would force oil companies talking about their environmental achievements to prove their words using an undefined, quote, internationally recognized methodology. Alberta Environment and Protected Areas Minister Rebecca Schultz said the bill would pave the way for environmental activists to sue oil and gas companies over so-called, quote, misleading environmental benefits. In a statement, she said, quote, C-59, put plain and simply, is an undemocratic gag order. It must be stopped. As the province considers all of its legal options available to stop this legislation, Schultz said Alberta has not ruled out utilizing the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act. I'm sure you guys remember that was Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's flagship piece of legislation after being elected, which would bar federal legislation deemed harmful to the province. Moving into our next story here, I'm sure you guys will all be relieved to learn that the Bank of Canada has finally lowered interest rates, and just one day after Alberta Premier Danielle Smith encouraged them to do so. At an unrelated press conference on Tuesday, the Premier encouraged the Bank of Canada to lower interest rates while touting her government's actions on affordability. Take a listen.
We're prepared to do more. What we're happy to see is that the level of year-over-year increases in inflation are moderating. When we were putting these measures in, you have to remember, we were looking at 7 to 8% annual inflation rates. We're now down in the band where even the Bank of Canada is talking about reducing rates. And I hope they do, because that is the biggest cost that people are seeing, is when they go to renew their mortgage and they're seeing rates that are double what they used to have on, that is ending up doubling their mortgage payment. When landlords are going to renew their mortgages and they see a doubling in the cost, they're passing that on in the form of rent increases. And so we're very hopeful that we'll see the Bank of Canada start moving in the other direction.
The bank announced a 0.25% interest rate cut on Wednesday as it continues to try to stabilize markets and keep inflation in check. The decision to reduce interest points by 0.25 percentage points makes the Bank of Canada the first G7 bank to begin easing its cycle. Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem dropped the benchmark overnight rate to 4.75% on Wednesday, a decision that has been widely anticipated by economists for some time now. In other news, the City of Calgary has issued an Alberta emergency alert due to a water break that has significantly impacted Calgarians' water use. Outdoor water use is currently not permitted in Calgary, and Calgarians have been asked not to shower, take baths, or run dishwashers. Alberta Health Services has also issued a boil advisory for all residents in the Calgary community of Bowness. We have a clip of what that water break looked like in Calgary. Take a look.
Park here in Calgary. Not a city employee to be found. That water main ripping. Traffic is closed. 16th Ave. Shoaldays Park.
In an update as of Friday morning, the City of Calgary said that it was at risk of running out of water and is asking residents to use 25% less water than they did on Thursday. I'm currently out of the province. I'm in Ontario visiting family, but this is happening in Northwest Calgary, right where I was living. I'm so grateful not to be here for this. Very annoying. We were being warned of a drought. I'm sure you guys remember that. Everyone was like, oh, we have to conserve water for this drought. And then it rained and rained and rained and lots of snow as well. Finally, the water levels were back up. And now this massive water break. The city of Calgary hasn't even identified what's caused this catastrophe yet. So it looks like it might take some time to manage. But certainly my thoughts are with the people of Calgary. What an absolute irritation to not be able to shower even. And for some people not even having fresh drinking water at their homes anymore. Moving into our controversy of the week. This one's from yours truly over at True North. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has appointed a former scandal-plagued premier to an Alberta investment agency. Former Alberta Premier Alison Redford was appointed to the Provincial Investment Attraction Agency this week. I'm sure you all know this even better than me. Redford is best known for her short and scandal-plagued tenure as Alberta's premier in the early 2010s. She was appointed to the Invest Alberta Corporation, which expedites business operations, fosters collaboration, and, quote, goes the extra mile to ensure long-term success for businesses, according to its website. Redford resigned in March 2014 after just 3 years as premier, following a series of controversies. The most infamous incident, now dubbed the Sky Palace, involved the premier spending millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to renovate the top suite of the Queen Elizabeth building at the Alberta Legislature to live in with her daughter. She would also book every seat on the government planes, but then travel with only 1 or 2 close members, ensuring that the remaining seats stayed empty and that she didn't have to travel with anyone else. Redford was also forced to reimburse $45,000 for a trip to South Africa to attend Nelson Mandela's funeral, and she eventually acknowledged that she used the government planes to fly her daughter's friends around and repaid the equivalent airfare of $3,100. The former premier is replacing Laura Daniels on the board. She will be compensated for this position. It's not immediately clear what that compensation will be. Compensation on the board ranges from $30,000 to as low as $4,000, according to 2021 information, which is the last publicly available data. And finally, moving into what we're watching in the weeks to come, it would appear that nothing is off the table for the NDP and their all-out crusade against Alberta's oil and gas industry. NDP MPs told the media that they are concocting a plan to hold not just big oil and gas accountable for allegedly burning the planet, but also the Conservative and Liberal parties for apparently allowing it. They grilled oil and gas executives in a House of Commons committee meeting this week, but the NDP said they also want the world to compare oil and gas producers to the tobacco industry, so they can ban them from advertising. Laurel Collins, the NDP critic for the environment and climate change, and Charlie Angus, the party's natural resource critic, said during a press conference this week that the hearing would be an opportunity to show Canadians how producing energy was, quote, making people sick. Before entering the committee hearing, Angus said, quote, "This is the big tobacco moment for oil and gas. We have to hold these companies accountable. They are not good corporate citizens. They are not attempting to reduce emissions, and they're saying we will continue to make profits, we will continue to burn your children's future." Angus also took the opportunity to take aim at Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. Take a listen.
In fact, we heard yesterday their spokesperson Danielle Smith said she wants to double production in the tar sands. This has got to be dealt with. This is why we support the UN call to end oil and gas advertising. It is a threat to human health. This is the big tobacco moment for oil and gas. We have to hold these companies accountable. They are not good corporate citizens. They are not attempting to reduce emissions. And they're saying, we will continue to make profits. We will continue to burn your children's future. But hey, if you want us to lower emissions, you pay for the cost. No. Those days are done.
And finally, moving into our weekly comment roundup, these are taken from my episodes 2 weeks ago. I did miss last week, Saturday. I was away. About people starting fires in Alberta and them often turning into large forest fires. User King Robbie said eco-terrorism, and user Angel Rose said the government should pass a law, life sentence for starting forest fires. Unfortunately, the legal system falls under the jurisdiction of the federal government, and they certainly don't seem interested in penalizing anyone who commits actual crimes. Only if you say the wrong thing, then you might find yourself in jail. All right, everyone, that's all we have time for today. As always, please like this video and subscribe to True North so you don't miss any of our content. If you want to support our work, you can do that over at donate.tnc.news. Hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week. God bless.